right, it's preparing again now, so we should be live now. And once we hit live, I'm going to, even on my phone, I'm going to get out of the group. Just so it's preparing again now, so we should be live now. And once, okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
We are good now. I muted myself on the Facebook group page. That worked. Okay. It's official, guys. We apologize.
Felt like we were talking on Mars.
I know. Okay, so now let's see if people are in the group watching. Yes. Okay. So now I can see that we are live in the group watching. Okay. And then let me shut the volume down. That way, if anybody comments, then we can hear them. So,
Awesome.
Hi, everybody.
What's up, everybody? Happy post-Thanksgiving weekend on a Monday.
That's right. That's right. Oh my gosh. Rosalie. Okay. Rosalie's here. She's watching. Rosalie, make sure you can hear us. Awesome. So thank you for having me, Dr. B. In this.
Oh, you're very welcome. I was looking forward to this conversation. It's going to be very interesting stories we're going to create today.
Yeah, so it's funny. I've been in your group for a while now, and I'm like, you do amazing stuff, and you do more things than what I thought chiropractors do, right? When you think of a chiropractor, you think of somebody who just like cracks your back and you're in and out from some neck pain, some foot pain. But learning from you and being inside the group is why we're here, because I really am interested in what you do and vice versa, right? About my life. But yeah, let's talk.
Yeah, well, I had no idea that the type of chiropractic I do was even out there when I went to chiropractic school, because I had the same view as you. You just had some neck pain, you went and got the chiropractor, took it away, and you would go back every week just thinking that's your life. And then you get into some of these other courses and meet some other true professionals that change the game, and you realize that you leave a lot on the table with that. Not that there's anything wrong with that approach. It's applicable to a lot of people's life goals or what they want for their health, but there's other things that arise for people that can be very limiting, and that's why I practice the way I do.
Right. No, I love it. So, all right, let's talk like as if I was in the office, because I want to learn more about like when I come to see you, what is treatment like?
Correct. Well, I think one of the main things we talked about over a few conversations was what's going on with your daughter a little bit.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe we could set that up like a consult if we were going to talk about her a little bit and then talk about how that impacts you as well.
Cool. Sounds good to me.
So you had mentioned something with some brain surgeries and things like that.
Yeah. So she was diagnosed with a brain tumor back when she was little in 2011. She was 8 years old. 7 or 8 years old. Yeah. And so she went through chemo about twice. She's had about 7 brain surgeries. So it's been rough on both her, and myself, our family. She's doing well now. She has some post-surgical, I believe it's like, I believe there's some scar tissue that's causing her to have seizures. But we also realized that medication's working for her, and she needs to be kept out of high stressful situations. And she's doing well. She's in college, taking it slow. She's doing well, and I expect her to continue to do well if I can keep her in a very calm, stress-free, in the woods kind of everyday mentality. That way.
So you're noticing that when a lot of stress comes, that impacts your daughter's health?
Yes. Yeah. So it drops the threshold for seizures. So her medication almost doesn't work. And that's how she ends up having a seizure. She stresses too much.
Gotcha. And what's her first name again? I'm sorry.
Jada.
And she's 18 now, going to college, right?
Yeah.
So that's a lot to be said to get them through high school, right? With adverse health effects.
It was no joke. She had an IEP. And college doesn't really recognize IEPs, and they don't gear you. They don't steer you. I mean, they don't guide you. So we've had to kind of like figure this out on our own, and we're still figuring it out. She started with 4 classes. She had to drop 2 because one of them, she ended up having a seizure because of the stress. So now she's on 2, and she's okay with that 2 at a time. She says she feels good, but she does want to take a break next semester and do like an online interior design course at her own pace. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try things that work for her.
So she's starting to recognize the need to set some boundaries and set herself up for success.
Yes. Yep.
Sometimes we don't need to be so linear, right? We can go left and right.
Correct. And that's what I learned later in life. I like that she's kind of seeing that now, that, you know, not everything works for everybody.
No, and you know, she's been through a lot of adversity in her life. So I commend her effort for sticking up for herself. You know, a lot of times when we don't feel good, we let people put things on us. And, you know, that's a commending for you for being a supportive mom, to not let her be the victim in her life and to go out and explore and fall down. Because I think a lot of
Oh, sorry. I had to, the recording wasn't recording, so I had to make sure it was on for you.
oh, gotcha. So sometimes when we play the victim role, you know, people don't want us to see us get hurt again, right? So you've been brave as a mom to let her go out and experience the world and not be afraid to fail.
Yeah. It's funny. From the one conversation I had with you, I walked in her room yesterday, I think it was just yesterday. And I said to her, "Hey, how you feeling?" She said, "He said, don't ask me that."
Yes.
And I was like, oh, Jada, you hearing this?
Well, I think that goes a long way, right? That obviously resonated with her because she feels like she's walking on eggshells. She's just trying to live her life being a kid, right?
Yeah.
And you're just a parent that cares, right? But that to her is like you're hovering.
Yeah. Yeah. She loves that conversation I had with you. That's probably why we're having it again. But she learned so much just from that. And she always talks about you. She's like, "Did you talk to Dr. B?" Because
Yeah. Well, and that's what we're here for. You know, it's like it's not just pain, and it's not just getting your body to function better. There's also an emotional and psychological component to what we do, and that's what people forget about chiropractic is the mental health capacities through the roof of what we're able to help change people when we interpret their brains different and how they, you know, what we're really trying to do is get them to communicate not only with themselves but the people they care about better. So, you know, sometimes we have to give them permission to communicate a different way, and she's doing that, which I'm very proud of her.
yeah, no, she love it. And even for me, like, I can see the mind body connection when I'm stressed out or when I'm worried. It's really hard for me to work out sometimes. So I have to get myself out of that mode in order to hit the gym or get physical, you know, like work out. I won't if I don't feel right up here.
Correct. Well, when someone you care about is not feeling well, it's not just that person, it's the life effect for the entire family, right? So she's already upset that she's not on this linear track that maybe a lot of her friends are. And then you see that and see her suffering, and then that's taking you off of your game.
Exactly. So it's crazy how things connect. And that's why with chiropractic, I'm like, wow, it makes so much sense that what you do it's not just physical, but you have to even to get chiropractic care, you gotta be ready for it, right? But you don't know if you're ready for it if you don't go see a chiropractor like you.
Well, that's the whole idea of our consultation. It's just a conversation. It gives us the opportunity to get to know someone, get to know their family, some of the challenges that they're facing with their health, and also see if they're a candidate for what we offer. And or are you in the right place? You know, we've talked about this before. A lot of people that want to be healthy are at the wrong type of doctor. And, you know, obviously your daughter had some medical conditions that 100% warranted going to those types of doctors. But once the bleeding stopped or the tumor's removed, does that mean you're healthy? You know, and that's a different set of series of questions and paths to be answered.
Yeah. She just walked in here. I told her, come listen to Dr. B. He's the one that told me to stop asking you how you feel.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Well, how does that make you feel to be able to say that to your mom?
Amazing.
Amazing.
What do you like about that?
You don't have to think of it as much as I did when she picked me up.
She doesn't have to think about it as much as she did.
Yeah.
Because I'm always asking her, how do you feel? So I don't,
You know, when you reframe that, you could be like, "Hey, Mom, I know you care, but I'm sustained or I'm good," and give her a vote of confidence back as you set a boundary.
a vote of confidence back, you see?
So
Mm.
give her what she needs too,
Oh, okay.
right? So instead of saying "leave me alone," it's like, "Hey, Mom, I appreciate that you're concerned about me, but I'm sustained. I'm good."
Yeah. Right. No, that makes
Because
so much.
what's happening to Mom is like if you're not answering her right, it's stressing her out as well. Because it's like she feels like she's not getting, like maybe you're hiding something even though you're not.
Oh, that's so her too because she hides things. She'll tell me like 2 days later, I had a sore throat on Friday. I'm like, why didn't you tell me? She's like, because then you probably would have rushed to the emergency room.
Well, and that's another, right? Because we want to fix things, right? We don't want to. You're a healthcare practitioner as well, right? When my kid has a headache, I want to go right in there and fix the problem. But the question is, do they want it to be fixed?
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. She's looking at me like, because she has a cold now, right? So I haven't said anything about the cold because I know it's just a cold. But I know she's thinking in her head, like, my mom's going to overreact any minute.
Well, and think about her body, how, you know, it's really smart. So if there was a tumor in her brain, the body said that there's toxins in here. I'm going to wall them off to keep it away from the brain. So there's nothing wrong with her body. It did exactly what it's designed to do, is take the toxins, put them in a little pouch and put them somewhere else where it wouldn't kill her, right? So it's, you know, when you have a little sniffle or a cold or as extreme as a brain tumor, you're expressing health. Your body's doing what it's supposed to do. You don't want to necessarily remove that process, right? But you maybe want to do other things to make sure it doesn't come back. But like sometimes the worst thing you can do for somebody is remove their pain because you don't learn anything.
Mm,
You know?
wow, that's true. Like, this is her body protecting her. So it's the symptoms.
Yeah, she's purging she's the symptom. She's getting rid of the broken cells. The body's already healed itself. It's getting rid of the mucus. It's all the stuff that's already been repaired, and it just has to come out. So you have two options there. You can ride it out, or I like to push it out. I'll do things to make that process go faster. Even though it's miserable, it's gone in 3 days versus 7 to 10. And then, or you could suppress it, but then you get a long hanging conflict, which it never fully resolves, right? So that's where symptom care can be very dangerous sometimes, as you find yourself in a low hanging conflict and all that comes with that, because you still have low energy, you still have brain fog, you don't have motivation, right? So you don't get back up to doing the things that make you feel good about yourself.
Wow. So do you like, in order to get it out, do you like work out or sweat it out or like, what do you do?
There's a variety of different things, you know. Sometimes you just feel like you can't even get off the couch, right? So there's a product I use called chlorine dioxide, which most of the time people get sick. It's whatever pathogens bothering you is very anaerobic, meaning it thrives without oxygen, right? So we see people that have low oxygen, they come into the clinic here and will test their pulse ox, right? Or people have sleep apnea, they have a low pulse oxygen rate, right? Remember that from school where you're always testing that?
Yeah.
So that's where exercise helps to increase the pulse ox, but also this product will go in and add extra oxygen into your blood to astringe any kind of pathogen, like basically kill it. But it pushes it out very fast. It's like going through a hangover within 3 hours versus a day.
Wow.
And then I like to speed it up with coffee, have caffeine, crank it up, and then Epsom salt baths to pull out the toxins faster, like a hot Epsom salt bath.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, so anytime I'm sick, that's my little protocol. And then as soon as you feel better, you want to get a little exertion, but you're not going to have the endurance to go crazy. But if you can go for a 5 or 10 minute walk and you start sweating some, like you're saying, that's super helpful.
Wow. That makes so much sense too. And that right there is what I'm talking about. That's different about seeing you versus going to see a medical doctor who would suppress the symptoms. Right?
Yeah, and you need that sometimes, you know, when you have a brain tumor. But, you know, your daughter, since she was 8, has been going in and out of the doctor's office, right? Jada has been in and out of the medical system, right? Just sit here, getting poked, prodded. You know, that's very invasive to your life. And they're all impressing that something's wrong with you. And there's not anything wrong. Your body's doing what it needs to do. It just is having a reaction to something that it doesn't like. right? But that creates a lot of stress for you. Like I grew up asthmatic in my life, right? Had birth trauma, and I want to talk to you guys about what your pregnancy and birth was like for your daughter, to try to deduce down what might have happened here as we get into the headaches and seizures. But, for me, I was my pediatrician's worst case. I was in and out of the hospital, always taking a pill or a shot to cover up what was going on, and, told I couldn't play sports because my breathing was just out of control. And I didn't believe them. And, luckily I got to play football in college, but I didn't have consistent health to maintain that level. And it was pretty devastating. So I had to take a medical leave from my team. I've been working since I was 10 years old to get to where I got to go. We talked when we first met. My first football game was versus Lodi.
Yeah, that's so
I
funny.
was telling my parents about what we were going to do here today. And outside before that game, they're like, we're going to give you $1 every time we hear your name called for a tackle. And they owed me a lot of money by the end of my career. They didn't know it at the time, but something great was going to come of that. And, at the lowest point in my life, my Aunt Linda Boyan, my dad's brother's wife, was awesome. And she was actually a cancer survivor 3 times before it just wore her out. But she gave me this book, and I think Jada might like this too, because I carried this with me my entire life. And it's called You're Not Your Disease. And it really, really helped me differentiate of who I am as a person versus the symptoms I'm having. And instead of making it like my entire life, like 9/10, it made it 1/8 of the problem. Like, so anytime I feel overwhelmed in life, and this is a good exercise for both of you, say you're not feeling good, or one of you's asking too many questions, it's like, I always start with, do I love myself? Right? And 9 out of 10 times the answer is yes. If I don't, then I start there. But it's like, do I like how I feel when mom asks me how I feel? No. What don't I like? What don't I like about that? I've been in and out of doctors my whole life. Like, I'm tired of people asking me about that. Okay, what can I do different about that situation so I'm not there anymore? So that stress starts this big, and now we make it that big. And we can come up with a strategy to say, okay, well, what do I want to do about that situation? Do I want to ignore mom? Do I want to communicate with mom? Do I want to ask for a buffer before I can communicate better? Because sometimes you don't feel good, you're in a different part of your brain. If you go exercise or read a book or meditate, you can come back to a conversation when you're in your frontal lobe and communicate better with somebody that you care about, right? Versus being very temporal because you're upset because you don't feel good. And the last thing you want is someone to make you feel worse, even though they're trying to help you.
Right.
So remember that, Jada, you're not your disease.
She's smiling over here.
You better be smiling. That's very empowering right there. It's almost t-shirt worthy.
Yeah. The other day she told me, it's funny what you said. She told me the other day, I hate to be touched. She doesn't like anything.
I'm going to give her an air high five because I hate people touching me too, unless I'm sick. My mom's the only one I let touch me when I was sick. But outside of that, like, someone bumped me online and asked me a question the other day, and almost like tore their head off. Because it's like, that's my space. Like, like, don't do that. Like, my nervous system, because of being sick, is like very aware of things. And if you don't have permission, then, it lights me up. The guy just wanted to ask me if he was in the food line.
Oh my gosh.
But you know what I mean? Like, he was behind me, I didn't know him, and he touched me, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, do you want to fight?
That's so funny because as a kid, I was sick as well and asthmatic, but when I got cancer, I was 20. So I went through chemo and poking and prodding and all of that. So it almost like sometimes I think the universe prepared me to take care of her. So I remember after my last bout of chemo, I was like, dude, I hated anybody touching me. I didn't want to go to the hospital. I still hate it. Like, now I do it because I have to take care of myself, but I hate it. I don't like hospitals. I don't like ERs. I don't like none of that.
Yeah.
So, and I worked in the environment, which was weird. I was surprised I ended up working in the environment, but.
Well, think about the touching. Is it like touching to find out what's wrong with you, or touching to find out what you can make better about yourself?
Right.
But see, now you're doing it a different way and you're more receptive to it.
Correct. Yeah, no, that's true.
So tell me a little bit about what the pregnancy was like with Jada for you.
Yeah, no, I had a regular, normal pregnancy, no issues. She was born vaginal delivery. I never had any diagnosis with anything. The only thing that is similar in every pregnancy was terrible nausea. which I refused. Like I would take Zofran, but not a lot with each one because I knew there was like some, you know, some side effects to that. So I was scared. I wasn't like a Tylenol person. I didn't take pain meds. I didn't drink alcohol. Didn't even dye my hair. That's why, you know, but I believe it's genetic. It's in my dad died of cancer, my mom, my paternal grandma and grandfather, my maternal grandma and grandfather. Like it's just in our, unfortunately, it's in our DNA.
Yeah.
So
Your family was pretty close knit, right? All lived in like the same area.
So this is the other thing. We grew up on radiated soil.
Well, that's what I was getting at, is that I don't deny things being in genetics for people, but something has to activate it to come across, right? We all have cancerous cells every day that we're working through, but something else has to make it active. And a lot of times what will happen in a family is they all kind of are living or doing some similar things, not always the same, but very similar.
Yeah, we lived and it's still radiated. We had a class action lawsuit and everything. They dug up our backyard and we were eating the vegetables that were being, so my dad died at 45 from colon cancer. And then all of our neighbors are gone. They all passed away, and neighbors even blocks back with breast cancer early after high school. Like it's known. And I believe that's part of it too, a huge part of it.
No, I think that is probably the it factor. And, you know, we all are sick. Our bodies just, like everyone that comes to my practice has the same problem. There's a structural misalignment or subluxation somewhere in their body between their skull, neck, and spine. But the symptoms is expressed differently in different people. You know, we have from different parts of the world, different social environments, different stress levels, you know, so we all could eat the same stuff, but some person's fine, some person's not, right? So it's things like people want to talk about vaccines, they get all crazy about it, and then how it affects kids on the spectrum. Well, 50% of the kids aren't getting on the spectrum after a vaccine, right? So it just goes to show that it affects different people different ways. So you have a different constitution, which is good, but both of you had the same problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're not living there anymore, I hope.
No. Yeah. When I left there, oh gosh. Oh God, now I have to think back when I really left that area. I had to be in like 1990. Oh yeah, in college. So I left I left 2002, exactly, when my daughter was 2 years old. I left that area.
Okay, so she was living there too then.
No, was my older daughter. She was born in 2000. So in 2002, I left that area. She wasn't born until 2004. I had already left. Yeah.
Gotcha. So you have three daughters?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that makes a lot of sense. So we talked about the food source and the soil, right? And then I think in our conversations, when we see, especially in the brain, there's fluid that circulates around the brain, we want to talk about the water source, right? So what kind of water were you drinking when you lived in that area?
Oh, sink water.
Tap water. So
Yeah,
if the soil was contaminated, so is the water probably, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh, we were making lemonade from
Yeah,
this.
selling it, right? For a couple of bucks.
Yep.
Think you're being healthy, and you can make yourself sick by being healthy if the source is contaminated.
Yeah, back then we couldn't really afford bottled water.
I don't think when we grew up it existed.
Yeah, I don't think that. Yeah.
I don't know what year bottled water became a thing, but I mean, I graduated high school in '95, and there was certainly not water in 7-Eleven.
No, we were drinking water fountains at basketball practice.
Yeah, exactly. Like there was Snapple and iced tea. Like that's it. And soda. Nobody carried bottles of water around. What was that? I never saw that.
No, that's so funny. That's so true. Wow.
So, you know, this is where when we talk about the big picture stuff, there's nerve flow, and we'll get into that next, but also the environment. That's where I feel like the water source is so important for people, because everyone wants to talk. You look at the food ingredients, like no hormones added to the meat or the fish, but what kind of water are those animals drinking too? You know, because your body's made up of 75% water, just like the earth. So you know, I think we're leaving a lot on the table by not considering the water source of our community and also the foods that we eat, because not only was the soil contaminated, but maybe the water source was too, that led to all of it.
So now we're eating antibiotic and hormone-free cows that are drinking water from
Yeah, like tap water that's got evidence of drugs in it, illegal, right? Feminine products, hormones, all this stuff that could not get filtered out through the water that infects us.
I know, she's laughing. She's like, oh no, we're buying all organic.
And that you just got to do the best you can. I'm not here to paint doom and gloom. We're just trying to make a few causal things to the environment that might have led to not only adverse health for your daughter and for you, but your family, but the community as a whole.
Now we live in all farm area. This is all trees and farm area. So I'm hoping it's a little better out here.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things you could do. That's a great place to live. You know, I'm glad that you're living where you're living. It's a beautiful part of the country, and there's still other things you could mitigate to do that. But so Jada had a regular birth, like growing up, pretty normal, no major slips or falls or anything.
Nothing. Not that she hit her head one time, sliced her head, but she had done like a flip off the couch, hit her head.
Right after you told me not to.
Right after I told her not to. I remember her flipping off the couch and cutting her head open.
Yeah, how old was she then?
How old was she? Probably like 5.
5. Okay, so she didn't stick the landing, huh?
No. I had a glass table. I don't know why I had a glass table in the middle of with a 5-year-old.
Because that's what we did back then. Safety was not a factor.
No.
Prior to that, were the headaches and seizures online then, or when did they come into play?
She didn't get diagnosed till she was 7.
7. Okay, so had a normal birth, had this flip off a couch, cut her face, but if she cut the skin, might have been enough to shift something in her body, right? Her skull and her neck.
Yeah, it was up here.
Yeah, and obviously traumatic head injury, right? Kids communicate differently. She may not pick up on it. And then what happened at 7 with the seizures?
She didn't have a seizure. The only reason we took her to the emergency room was because she was a gymnast, and after gymnastics, she kept having headaches. And then her dad called me one day. He's like, Jasmine, she's throwing up again. Like, this is not normal. Something's up. And like his gut spoke. And I was a manager in the ER at the time. And I go, just bring her here.
Yeah.
We'll get her checked out, because that's not normal if she's having headaches and vomiting. And I don't suffer from headaches. I don't have migraines. I don't wear glasses. He doesn't either. So we were like, where is this coming from? This is not, and my gut spoke. So we went, and that day she walks normally, neuro checks normal. They're like, she has a stomach virus. And my stomach just fell like a pit. And I said, she does not have a stomach virus. My daughter is not sick. You are not sending us home. And they were like, what's wrong with you? And I was the manager. So here I am cursing at people. I became this monster out of nowhere. Everybody's like, what is wrong with Jasmine? Oh my gosh. I called the CNO, the chief nurse, and I'm like, they're telling me my daughter has a stomach virus. I want her to have a CAT scan, and they're telling me it's too much radiation for a child. I said, I want my daughter scanned before I go home. She goes, I'll be right there. She comes down, she speaks to the doctor, and she's like, order a CAT scan for her, please. Well, if it wasn't for the CAT scan, she had an ICP pressure of 25, and we live between 8 and 12. So the neurosurgeon congratulated me and said, you saved your daughter's life.
So innately, you felt that something was being brushed over and that you had to fight for her.
Yep.
See, Jada, your mom loves you. What do you think? She hates you.
Yeah, so they said like she wouldn't have been alive much longer.
Yeah, what did they feel the pressure was due to?
The tumor was so big. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's amazing that and this is where medical's awesome, right? I love it. It saved my life in and out of the hospital. I don't know if you ever did you ever go to the hospital when you were having asthma attacks?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like fighting for air. I don't want to downgrade anybody else's medical stuff, but when you think you're a goner going to the hospital because you're out of control, I don't know anything that's worse.
Yeah.
So you know what that feels like, and you don't want her to suffer that feeling, right?
Yeah.
And this is where medicine saves your life. And I love collaborative care. I practice natural health, but I have a lane to stay in. But a lot of times in our practice, what we'll see is, this is the front of the head and that's the back. And obviously here's your brain, right? So the fluid in your brain is supposed to circulate. So in this skull, like all these ridges here have to move when you breathe, right? So when we don't stick the landing on the couch, right, and the skull gets locked, the fluid in the brain doesn't circulate properly, right? And it's like putting a wine bottle in a vase, and all the fluid gets built up in here. So that's where people get concussions and head injuries and stuff like that. They get CT proteins that cause neurodegeneration. And under functional MRIs, they see when they can adjust the skull and the spine, but in 20 minutes, those tau proteins go away because the fluid in the brain starts to circulate again. So obviously your daughter was predisposed to some toxins, right? So we can't play a role. The water in her body was already dirty. And then we went and had a physical trauma that locked her up even more. So the fluid can circulate through the lymph and the rest of the body to clean itself out. And it walled it off and put it in the tumor. So you have physical trauma and you have environmental trauma, that could potentially have gotten her into that state of health. If that makes any sense, like on the orthopedic neurological side of what's going on, including the environmental side. And then there's nowhere for the pressure to go. So of course you're going to get a headache. And you're going to feel nauseous because the toxins are building up in your body. Like I have people that come here all the time that pull off the side of the road and puke their brains out after they've left an adjustment. And then I have to tell them that they're expressing health and that's normal. And they look at me like I'm crazy. And the sicker they get is the more I'm like, that's cancer leaving your body. You've been sick for so long, and each time they'll keep coming in, it'll happen, but it becomes less and less. And then after a couple months, they thank you because they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize how bad I was.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So kudos to you for sticking up for your daughter and not letting I don't want to say just because a test says something's negative that there's not something there, right?
Yeah.
But just to blame it on the stomach ache because you can't find anything else is not a very good situation,
Right.
And she could have died. So that's why when people come here to see me, I give them the best analysis possible, head to toe, because I would want that for me or my family or my loved ones or people I care about and their kids, because there was things that were missed because I missed. No one ever said that my mom get his neck checked. If that's putting pressure on the spinal cord where the respiratory centers are right here, this is your back of your head and C1, C2. If this is misaligned like that, how are you going to breathe right? And this nerve comes all the way down here. The vagus nerve comes all the way down to your diaphragm. And your heart rhythm is going to be out of control. That's what an asthma attack is, right? It's your nervous system is working backwards. Instead of your lungs dilating, it's constricting. Why is it working backwards? It's saying there's too much pressure in the body, and that if you exert yourself, I don't know, did your asthma bother you when you were exerting yourself?
Did what bother me?
Your asthma sometimes when you're trying to exercise or play as a kid?
Oh yeah. I was absent from every class picture. I tried cheerleading and gymnastics and everything, but I was always in the hospital.
Yeah. So I had a lot of cousins growing up. Remember freeze tag? How much fun that was in the street with like 30 kids? Like a free for all, right?
Yeah.
It was a battle, and I would be at my aunt's house and I would crawl up the stairs having these asthma attacks, but you just want to go outside and play. But that was my body's way of saying, I'm going to save your life because I can't take any more pressure. I'm going to put you on the ground and make you wheeze so you stop moving or you're going to die.
Yeah.
So same thing what it did with your daughter with her tumor, is take the toxic material and wall it off from the vital organs so she wouldn't die.
Yeah.
So the reason I say that, I want you to trust her body, that it is smart. It does know how to heal when you give it what it needs. But if it's sick, doesn't mean that you're sick. It's expressing the symptoms of trying to get rid of what is not supposed to be there.
Yes.
That makes sense a little bit, to reframe that, so you don't feel like you're a disease.
Yeah.
Cool. So the headache is obviously a symptom of something else that is potentially going on for her, right? So we've gotten through all these surgeries, but it sounds like she's still having some issues with the headaches and the seizures as a young adult now.
Actually, the headaches are like, I don't remember last time she had a headache, honestly, right, Jada? When did you have a headache? You have a headache?
it's a cold.
She has a cold, so she has a headache. But she doesn't get them as often as she used to.
Yeah.
And if she does, it'll be like she measures her pain from like a 0 to 10. It'll be like a 2. The last
Yeah.
one.
Because of her health history, though, her 2 could be another person's 8.
I know. Yeah, she has a very high pain tolerance.
My pain tolerance is through the roof, so my 2 is someone else's 8, and that's what it helped me be successful, but it also made me dig a really big ditch for myself because I wasn't allowing my body to heal, and then when I needed to perform, it couldn't do it consistently. So
Yeah.
sometimes you have to double check ourselves and be like, is it really a 2 or is it an
Right.
8? I'm just persevering through this because this is what I'm used to.
Yeah.
It's amazing what somebody gets used to. So tell me, Jada, what causes you stress in your life?
We don't have all day. She doesn't know.
She doesn't know.
She knows, but it's hard to put into words. This is
No,
why.
it's okay. Sometimes it's just we're frustrated because we don't feel healthy or we can't do what we want to do.
Is that one? Yeah, and then it's mostly she gets upset with her dad, or she gets frustrated with me, or school, the pressure. She doesn't like a lot of pressure.
Okay, what about school makes you feel pressure?
The work.
The assignments, I was just gonna say,
The assignments after class?
And
and during, like if she
And
doesn't,
during.
yeah, because she's not processing as fast as others.
Well, that's what I was trying to figure out is like, I know for me, Jada, learning was very chaotic because like your mom, I missed a lot of school. I spent so many birthdays in bed. My birthday's December 22nd. I was in bed for Christmas, missed Christmas parties, my birthday parties. I remember my mom had to teach me cursive writing because I remember I was in 2nd grade. I was in St. Joe's Hospital for a week with a double sinus infection in 2nd grade. I was like a case study for all the pediatricians because you're not even supposed to have sinuses. So learning was not easy because my nervous system was so jacked up all the time on the medicines that it couldn't relax. And then when I would go take a test, I would black out, even though I knew the answers because I just didn't process the information a certain way.
That Atrovent, was it? That made you like, right?
Oh my God, yeah, the jitters. And I remember getting sick in school.
Yeah, my heart was like,
Advair, oh my God, that stuff was awful. Slowbid, Advair.
yes, I was on the same stuff. We were sick at the same time.
My mom used to give me the stuff in those little pellets and be like, I'm sorry. I'm like,
I know, the nebulizers all the time.
well, I used to carry my nebulizer to football games and do it at halftime. That's how bad I wanted it. That I would be a little kid, 4th grade, taking nebulizer treatments at halftime so I could play ball.
Wow.
But learning was very hard, especially. So I didn't learn that till chiropractic school when I started getting different type of chiropractic care that I could study less and get better grades because my brain is processing things differently from not having that pressure like that all day long because you're in this fight or flight mode and your brain doesn't want to learn. It's very temporal. And then when you're more relaxed and engaged, it processes things better. And then you're like, oh, there's the answer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that didn't happen until way later in life for me, so that's another symptom that we see in a stress response is just the communication between the body and brain isn't right. And it affects our performance when we need it the most. And we just want peace and quiet.
That's all
We
she
don't want to be overstimulated.
all she wants is peace and quiet. And like she stays in her room, she's quiet, like she just moved back with me because she was with her dad.
Are you more of an introvert, Jada?
Yeah.
I am too. No, but I forced myself to have extroverted job. That's why I'm talking to your mom and you today. Because otherwise I would never talk about this stuff because I don't want to talk about it. I wouldn't wish my childhood on anybody. When my daughter was born, I couldn't stop crying because her birth was perfect and she'll never have to know what it's like to fight for air and have learning be so chaotic and just miss out on things in life. Like, she'll have her own stress, but she'll never know that. Right. So And that's why I do what I do, because someone couldn't do it for me. So I figured it out for myself to share with you both. And
Right.
learning maybe doesn't have to be so stressful if we can get things in alignment properly for her.
Yeah. And that's why we're going to try that online interior design school. That's like all these modules, but it's on her own, at her own pace, at home, in her environment where she feels safe, quiet, and she can design her own schedule around that. So, and then
Well, our brains, my neurology teacher in chiropractic school, he's like, this is not how you learn. He's like, I'm teaching you 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. Like, you need 3 or 4 days to process this stuff and then come back and talk about it again, and then you'll understand it. So the modern education system fails everybody, but if you have some pre-existing structural misalignments that are going to cause learning to be slower, you're not going to be successful in that model ever. So you're better off doing it on your own pace so you could actually remember it and get a better experience from it.
Yep, and that's exactly what I think is going to happen with her. So and we're working on getting a job. So
Yeah, you have to hold some commitments to yourself. You can't just totally be on your own schedule. You got to have a little structure.
yeah.
What are your interests, Jada?
She's such a teenager. She just, they never have an answer. She's looking at me again. What are you looking at? What's your interest?
You could say money or independence. Having $20 goes to
Oh,
your
money.
thing.
Oh my gosh. We've been on a while. I have a 1 o'clock, just so you know.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll wrap this up real quick. We also typically want to talk to people about the water source that they're drinking. Even though you're in this new community, we want to make sure you're drinking the optimal level of water so that the cancers don't come back.
Yes.
And we mentioned accountability and structure in our schedule, but we also want to be able to include some exercise and figure out what's going on with that. So, once we identify the problem and the life effect for both of you, which we have, then we want to work towards our goals of what's going to motivate her to be successful. And then, then we move forward with our structural correction exam with the motion x-rays that allow us to identify what parts of the spine are locked and get them unlocked with the infrared analysis, which for her is going to be important because you could see how much stress her nervous system's under. And when we could see those numbers be more regulated, you'll see her stress level won't be so bad. And then we'll do the posture check where we actually assess the cranial bones and we can see if something shifted from that accident or over time from the brain surgeries to keep that fluid rolling in her body better so that she has more energy consistently than any kind of orthopedic or neuro exam. So right now there's a lot left on the table. There's so much room for improvement for you. I'm excited. She's young, she's motivated, and she doesn't even know how awesome she can be right now.
Oh my gosh. It's time to get on a plane.
But we want to visit Asheville.
No, trust me, she's been bothering me about it.
Yeah, I've been your advocate, Jada. I've been telling your mom, next trip, gotta come hang out for a week. We'll get this all figured out.
Yeah, she's looking at me because we'll discuss on the next live, her muffled ears. She feels like she's underwater every day.
Yeah, well, think about it. If your brain is torqued, here's your ears. So if your skull is torqued, the fluid gets caught up in the ears as well.
Wow.
And this is what the video I made the other day talking about, people come in with a headache, but then later on they start, oh, well, what about my muffled ears, right? They don't think it relates to what we're talking about. Or what about the nausea that I feel or the inability to learn properly, right? And that's why we want to have these types of conversations to let people open up about some things that they may not think are related, but I think and I know that they are, and make some links into that of how that all comes together for them versus just treating the symptom.
Amazing. She's like, oh my God. All right, Dr. B, we'll be seeing you soon. I thank you so much for this.
You're very welcome.
And
thanks for participating, Jada.
Quiet. All right. Thank you so much. We're out of here live. Oh, by the way, it's people that are watching live, they could send you questions or whatever, right? On here?
Oh, 100%. I'll take a look at those and answer them in a timely fashion.
Okay, cool. I'm going to jump off the Facebook since I have control.